Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for October 18th, 2020, recorded around 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic right now, we do have a couple of things to discuss today, mainly in the form and fashion of Invest Area 94L, which is a pretty concentrated area of vorticity right now, but we'll talk about that here in just a second. We also have another area worth watching in the Southwestern Caribbean, which has had its chances lowered for development over the 5-day period, although something may come out at a later period, but we're starting to see that signal kind of wane a little bit more. And that is really because right now we just don't necessarily have a huge catalyst for development at the moment. So this is kind of hindering a lot of substantial development because we just don't have really any catalyst to start initiating development down there. And then we're also watching this little peculiar area right now to the south and east of the Florida Straits right now, located over the Bahamas. This largely disorganized complex of showers and thunderstorms, nothing really going on right now. But these water temperatures down there, it's still pretty warm. Upper level wind is on the marginal side, so not really expecting much development here at all. But, it is still something to monitor as, anything that tries to spin up even this time of the year down in that region still has to be monitored. So we're really watching about 3 systems, 2 with, legitimate chances of becoming a tropical cyclone over the 5-day period. So if we look here at Invest Area 94L, again, we talked about how yesterday maybe we were starting to see the signs of this becoming a tropical cyclone. Well, in fact, that did not happen. The shower and thunderstorm activity that was trying to wrap around on the north side here got completely, basically just got obliterated. It dissipated, it weakened. And then from there, we had showers and thunderstorms, the activity mainly on the northeast side here. And that's what the Gfs Forecast was depicting for this time today, that we were going to have more of that synoptic pattern with the thunderstorms mainly confined on the northeast side. Now, again, you can very clearly see there is a closed center of circulation. We don't really need to go over that, but you can very clearly see the cloud elements here on the north side blowing around here and turning around. Then on the south side, you got winds coming out like this. Very clear signs of evident circulation in there. It's closed based on the scatterometer passes from earlier, but you don't notice a lot of thunderstorms around it. And, we kept saying maybe this will be the time that things really start to get going, but in fact, we haven't really seen that. And even with this new initiation of showers and thunderstorms, you notice where the center is, these thunderstorms, the center basically drifting south, basically off towards the south. These thunderstorms were just pushed along in a kind of an assumed boundary. So these aren't necessarily generated near that center, although they appear near the center. They weren't necessarily near that center, if it makes any sense. So again, it's still relatively convectively anemic right now. We don't have a lot of activity occurring now. What you do see, though, today is maybe some isolated, concentration starting to occur on the east and northeast side here. You can see all of the showers and thunderstorms are a little bit more concentrated, close in and around that center. We don't see thunderstorms way off towards the north like this, way off towards the northeast, although there are some. The concentrated amount is at least semi-close to that center. So that is starting to indicate that maybe we might see another push at this to become a subtropical depression or storm, or even fully tropical. By the time we get, tonight, tomorrow, etc., we could be dealing with a storm on our hands. Now, again, any short increase in convective activity closer towards the center would lead to this becoming a depression or storm over the next 12 hours. So while this isn't there yet, any small increase would definitely lead towards this becoming a subtropical or tropical depression or storm. So very important to understand those factors going into it. Now, if we look here at the 850 vorticity product, this is the spin in the atmosphere at about 5,000 feet off the ground here. And for context, again, for anyone who's brand new, these reds and whites, these red and white colors, that is your higher cyclonic spin at your 5,000 foot level. And what you're really looking for is these concentrated bundling of the energy, like you see here associated with Invest Area 94L, where you're actually starting to see some of those whites pop through. And we can zoom in here. You can really see some of those white colors that are starting to pop in now. And that means that we have a very robust circulation. This is the island of Bermuda right here. So this is a very robust circulation right now, drifting over the open Atlantic, so no concern right now. But going forward with time, this might be something to watch once again for the people in Bermuda. This might kind of go to bear watching as we progress over the next couple of days. So we'll be watching it, but no deep concern at the moment for land threats. But again, very well-defined center of circulation, very defined spin, even from the GOES imagery here. So we can tell that it's well-defined enough that we are probably going to see this become a subtropical or tropical depression or storm probably within the next day or two. Now, the Hurricane Center, this is from the 5-day graphical outlook from the 2 p.m. tropical weather outlook. Again, this is Invest Area 94L. That has a 90% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone, and this will likely become one as we progress through the next couple of days. Again, drifting slowly off towards the south, and then possibly recurving back towards the north and west as we progress over the next couple of days or so. And then again, this area down here in the Southwestern Caribbean right now, again, not really that well defined though, and we talked about this, there's not really much of a catalyst for actual development down here. And we can see that if we actually zoom in here to more of a sub-regional look at this area, there's not really a lot going on down here. You can see there's, there's showers and thunderstorms, kind of popping out in this region, but we don't really have a lot of activity ongoing. And for that very reason, the development chances were actually lowered from 30% down to 20%. And if trends continue, I suspect that we might actually see that area be dropped, at least in the short term, as kind of this like ghost-like tropical cyclone has been predicted in some of the modeling over the past couple of days. Now we're starting to see that be dropped as time kind of moves forward. Now, that's not saying that something still couldn't form out in this region, but I'm becoming a little bit less concerned that we're going to see something of a high magnitude down there in that vicinity. So that's good news, at least for right now, but we can't take our eyes off of that region. Now, if we look here at the HWRF's depiction of 94L, again, there's a lot of complicating factors going on here. And we talked about yesterday that we're not really expecting this to take off into a hurricane or anything of that magnitude anytime soon. This is going to take a couple of decent days for this to become better organized. And the reason for that is, I think you can very clearly see, one of the main reasons is this upper-level anticyclone that's kind of displaced over the Caribbean right now, and association with another trough in low-pressure area across the Midwest right now is producing this flow of wind. And you can very clearly see how there's a lot of strong wind shear coming basically out of the northeasterly direction. So a lot of shear right now being impinged on our storm, and that has kind of led towards these thunderstorms being completely blown away. We're seeing kind of some of this northeast shear, and then at times it's kind of switching to southwesterly shear, but we still have a lot of shear in this general vicinity, and that's helping to push these showers and thunderstorms out and away from the center of circulation right now. So that's why we're not getting anything. But we can also see another reason why we're not getting much is, if we look here at the relative humidity, this is the 700 to 400 millibar layer in the atmosphere. So this is basically the mid-levels of the atmosphere, the middle layer of that atmosphere. And what you're looking at is these browns here. That's all your dry air. And of course, the green is your moist air for anyone that is unfamiliar with it. So we can see a large part right now of our vortex is covered and just smothered in all of this dry air that's kind of coming down around it. This kind of comma shape here of dry air. And that is, again, because all of the shear is helping to force this dry air into the vortex. It's not allowing a vertically aligned vortex. It's not allowing the moisture to consolidate, be concentric. We don't see that. In fact, we see the moisture field pushed all the way off towards the north and east, and they're kind of strung out with this bit of front and left and through here. So we're kind of seeing this transition, from that mid-latitude cyclone into somewhat of a hybrid mid-latitude energy and warm core tropical energy. And that's why I believe right now this would probably be classified as a subtropical cyclone if and when it does get designated, either today or tomorrow more than likely, or probably tomorrow more than likely. But, if it does, I think it would probably earn a subtropical designation. Now, again, you can very clearly see, though, if we're going to head back to the 200 millibar wind here, that as we progress over the next several days, though, the pattern starts to change. We get more of a zonal flow as the trough is now lifting to the north, and the upper level anticyclone across the Caribbean is sliding a little bit away from kind of its influence zone here. So what you actually see is more of a zonal flow, although we still have some shear around here, no doubt about it. You can see that there is still a bit of shear. The storm has now moved north of the shear belt. So this kind of conveyor belt of shear is now to the south of the storm, and the storm is now trying to generate its own anticyclone. And we can see some of this anticyclonic flow developing out towards the north here and kind of bending back like this. So if anything, this would kind of help to fight some of the shear that is kind of around it. Now, by this time still, if we look here at the relative humidity product, again, the storm is still encased within a larger envelope of very dry air. I mean, some of these relative humidity values are literally in about the 95 percentile dry conditions here. This is basically 5% relative humidity. And though you do see, though, something important, that we started to develop more of this moisture field around the tropical cyclone at this time. Whether this be subtropical, this more than likely be a tropical, fully warm core system by now. But that's important that we have this moisture field starting to bundle around it, because this allows the storms to finally consolidate, build over that center, and that surface flux response from all of those thunderstorms near that center then helps to deepen a low pressure system. That helps to deepen it, and once this deepens, then it can really start to take off. And what we actually see here is if we put on the 200 millibar wind here again, we actually start to get more of this anticyclonic flow to build completely around the storm. And now you're really seeing this anticyclonic flow kind of around the storm environment. So you're not really getting a exquisitely high shear environment. Now, if we move this out here to the 84-hour time frame, what we start to see is the storm is actually drifting a little bit now towards the north and west. Again, this is the island here of Bermuda. So this is going to be getting fairly close there to the island of Bermuda after, maybe the next couple of days or so that Bermuda would have to watch. And again, this large anticyclonic flow out here is going to be kind of responsible for that. And if we look at the Gfs forecast and we look here really at the 500 millibar heights in the atmosphere, and we'll move out here to right about hour 84, what we see is a very large area. We'll actually highlight this here in a better color. A very large area here of relative low pressure, this area of generalized low pressure in the atmosphere. But surrounded by it is an area of kind of high pressure around here. So what we're kind of getting is an area of light steering flow, but the storm is sliding a little bit to the west at this time because this ridge out here is just slightly stronger and is trying to push that storm a little bit further towards the west. Now, after that time, you can see there's another trough that's starting to dig in across the northwest United States, and by this time, this particular run of the GFS takes us near or right over the island of Bermuda within 5 days. And if we look here at the H-Wharf, again, much of the same is depicted here in the H-Wharf, sliding just to the south of the island of Bermuda. Again, this anticyclonic flow kind of largely over top of the system. You can see this large easterly jet across here, and what is assumed to be another trough building out across here. So right now, this anticyclonic flow is still going to be kind of tugging like that, and then eventually going to be trying to turn that storm somewhere. Now, where this turn occurs is going to be very crucial, and we can see that at least in the H-Wharf, this doesn't really begin that turn until maybe after the 5-day realm, when it's a little bit further towards the west here of Bermuda, maybe then taking a turn more so like that. Now, either way, I don't really expect to see much in the way of land threat potential to the United States, but this might be something to watch down the road for Bermuda. Within 4 to 5 or 6 days, there might be a threat there to the island of Bermuda. So you already had 2 threats down there from 2 tropical cyclones, both Teddy and Paulette, earlier this season. Now we might be watching kind of a 3rd threat to that area. So it is going to be something to watch here. And at least on this particular run here of the H-Wharf, this is a 974 millibar storm. So this is, deepening, would probably be, at least a category 2 on this particular model at this point. Now, this is, again, 5 days out. We don't have a storm yet in this vicinity, but we're going to have to watch. The water temperatures are still warm enough right now, somewhat. If we look actually here on the thermodynamics here and the sea surface temperatures, we can see that at least for the next several days, this will be traversing an area of relatively warm water. But after that point in time, we can see that energy starts to become less conducive out here as this is passing near the island of Bermuda. So good news is I don't see this exploding and rapidly deepening in, the kind of the subtropical Atlantic here. But this still would be a respectful hurricane at this point, and again would probably bring some peripheral impacts if this model panned out for Bermuda. So it's just worth monitoring here over the next couple of days. Now, if we look down here in the Southwestern Caribbean, we do also have another kind of area to watch. And again, this is the area that we've been talking about that's been highlighted by the Hurricane Center for the last several days. But you can see not a lot coming out here at about 5 days, but we do have this very big tongue of moisture that's stretching all the way from South America, Venezuela, all the way up here through Cuba and the Bahamas and even into Florida to some extent. So this is a pretty large moisture field. Now, whether or not something really comes out of this or not is really going to be dependent on if we can get a catalyst to kind of develop, to come through here and promote development. So far, we haven't really had that, and that's going to be the biggest thing. Again, you really don't see a lot of development even through the next several days. There is just really no development to even be seen on this model run. It basically squashes any substantial development down here, and that very real could be a possibility after we kind of progress through the next several days. And just for reference, this is kind of your look here at basically the GEFS model. This is basically the ensembles, and you can see even through hour 120, this is 5 days from now, you do know there is kind of a lowering of pressures down here, but that's not a lot of model support. There's not a lot of model support. And if we back this up several runs ago, where there was tremendous model support here for what possibly could be a hurricane by this particular time on the 23rd of October, now you're not really seeing that. So is there going to be any potential system down there? It's certainly possible, but the chances are becoming less and less likely as we progress through time. And, for what it's worth, again, even really the European EPS models don't really have any day realms. So it's very important to understand that right now the details are still rather murky. There's definitely lowering of pressures down here in the Gulf of Mexico on this particular run of the Euro. Nothing really substantial, but again, anything could happen. It is still, the tropics, and yes, models have dropped development before where something has then developed. We've seen it time and time again, but it's just important to monitor. And for what it's worth here, we'll just take a look here at some of the other models. The Icon, which I believe is the German model, it's done relatively well this year with TC development. It is forecasting a tropical cyclone to develop down there, but again, things are just relatively uncertain at this point. So there's a lot of things that we just don't know yet, and we'll be getting kind of more information as the days progress. All right. So that being said, hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon, evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow morning.